Hi, this is Ryan, and I almost skipped this one because I figured everybody already knew. They don't. Almost nobody does. Here's what pulled me in. I'd been digging through teardown footage and repair records for the laptops people buy the most, and I kept hitting this same quiet little fact. On a huge chunk of new machines, including some of the sleek, pricey ones everyone recommends, there's one part you pick on the day you buy it, and then you're stuck with, for good. Can't add to it, can't swap it. It's soldered down. And it's not the screen, not even the battery, not even the thing the ads keep yelling about. It's the one number that decides whether your laptop still feels fast a year from now, or whether it turns into that slow, maddening brick you shove in a drawer. The part that stopped me, repair experts yanked one wildly popular laptop off their own recommended list over exactly this. So what's the number? Why won't a single ad say it out loud? And how do you catch it before you spend a dime? Stay with me, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. And trust me, there's a lot more buried where this came from, so you'll want to stick around for what's next. So let me walk you through how this actually came together, because it starts somewhere really ordinary. You go to buy a laptop. Your eyes land on two things every time: the processor, some string of letters and numbers nobody on earth can actually decode, and the price. Big bold chip name, big bold discount. That's the whole shop window. And that's kind of the trick of it, because the processor is almost never the thing that decides whether you love this laptop or quietly hate it 12 months from now. The thing that decides that is the memory, the RAM. And I already feel half of you checking out at the word RAM. So here's the plain version. Picture RAM as your laptop's desk. It's the space where everything you're actively doing gets spread out. Your browser tabs, your email, the video call, the doc you've got open. Big desk, you spread everything out, you work fast. Tiny desk, you're constantly shoving one thing aside to make room for the next. That shoving around, that's the lag, that's the spinning wheel, that's the "why is this thing so slow all of a sudden" moment you know exactly the feeling of. Now, here's the desk size almost everybody walks out of a store with. The cheap laptops, and honestly plenty of the not cheap ones, ship with 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's just a number until you see what's already sitting on that desk before you've touched it. Independent breakdowns put Windows 11, just running by itself, at around 3 to 5 gigabytes of memory before you open a single app. Then you open a browser, a normal human amount of tabs, 5 or 10, and that's another 1.5 to 3 gigabytes gone. Run that math with me. On an 8 gig machine, you can be more than half full before you've done anything at all. You paid for a desk and walked in to find half of it already buried under stuff you didn't put there. Here's the part that flipped it for me, though. I'd have told you 8 gigs was fine for basic use. That's genuinely what I believed a few years back. So I went looking for who's saying it isn't. And the loudest voice is Microsoft, the people who make Windows. Their own buying guide lists picking an 8 gig laptop because it's cheaper as one of the top mistakes people make, and says straight out it'll age quickly. Read that again. When the company selling you the operating system tells you their own software needs more room than the laptop you're about to buy, that's not marketing, that's a confession. The number they point you towards instead, the one that actually holds up over a few years, is 16. Double the desk. And this is the part that stings. The price gap between 8 and 16 is usually small. Reviewers who track this stuff say the same thing on repeat. If that gap is small, 16 is worth every dollar, because it's the line between a laptop that still feels smooth in year 3 and one that doesn't. You can watch it play out in the record. Take a mid-priced Acer Aspire 5 that ships with 16 gigs. The write-ups describe it chewing through crowded browser sessions, video calls, streaming, light photo work. None of that sluggish drag that cheaper 4 and 8 gig machines pick up over time. Now line it up against a budget 15-inch Dell that ships with 8. Same shelf, same great deal sticker slopped on the front, completely different life expectancy. One's going to grow with you, the other's on a countdown timer from the second you open the box. So the question that started genuinely nagging at me was why? Why keep pumping out 8 gig machines when the people who build the software are practically begging you not to buy them? Because memory is the cheapest corner to cut. It's the easiest thing to shave off a spec sheet while keeping that headline price low enough to win the click. And it isn't just the bargain bin either. I traced it up the ladder and kept finding mainstream name brand laptops quietly capped at 8 gigs. I'm talking a line as ordinary as the Lenovo IdeaPad Slim 3.
Not the throwaway junk, the stuff people confidently recommend to their own parents. And this is where it stopped being a spec I'd shrug out and started being something that genuinely bugs me. Because it's not a mistake, it's a decision. They know 8 isn't enough, and you know how I know they know? They're the ones who told us, and they keep building it anyway because the cut saves them a couple of bucks and costs you the entire machine down the road.
Because here's how it actually goes for you. Not in the store. In the store, it's perfect, snappy, fast, maybe even faster than your old one. That's the honeymoon. Then the months roll on, Windows piles on updates, apps get heavier, they always do, your tab habit creeps up the way everyone's does, and somewhere around that first year, the desk runs out of room and the machine starts choking on stuff it flew through on day one. The scroll stutters, the call goes choppy the second you've got one other thing open, the little wheel spins while you sit there wondering what you did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. This was baked in at checkout. And when I went digging through owners' threads, this exact story, bought it, loved it, watched it crawl within a year, it's not the occasional gripe buried on page 9. It's the single most common regret people write down about a new laptop. Same arc over and over, thousands of times. So by now you're probably landing where I did. Fine, the machine's slow, the memory's the bottleneck, just add more memory. People upgrade laptops all the time. That's the reasonable move. That's what should happen next. It's also exactly where this whole thing comes off the rails. Because on a massive share of the laptops selling right now, you go to add that memory and you physically can't. And when I found out about how far they've actually gone to make sure of that, and what it does to your wallet the day something breaks, honestly made me a little angry. So here's the thing nobody warns you about at the register. Open up an older laptop, or a lot of the bulkier ones, and the memory sits in little slots. Sticks you can pop out and swap, like cartridges. Slow machine, cheap fix, buy a bigger stick, click it in, done. $50 and 10 minutes and your laptop is fast again. That's how it worked for years. That's the upgrade everyone in your life keeps telling you to do. Now open up most of the thin, modern laptops. The memory isn't in a slot, it's soldered, melted straight onto the mainboard as part of the machine itself. There is no stick to pull, there is nothing to click in. The number you picked at checkout is the number you have until the day you throw the whole laptop away. And I want to be fair here because this isn't villain origin story stuff. There's a real reason they do it. Let me back up for a second. This soldered memory, the kind in the slim laptops, it's genuinely faster and it sips less battery, which is how these things got so thin and last so long on a charge. That part's true. The trade is just brutal and nobody says it out loud. You get the thin, sexy laptop, and in exchange, you give up the one repair that used to save these machines. You're not buying a laptop anymore. You're renting the specs it's shipped with. Here's how far it's spread. Cross-check the lists, and it's basically the entire thin and light aisle. Most MacBooks, most of the newer Dell XPS models, the Asus ZenBook line, the Acer Swift, most HP Pavilion consumer machines, the stuff on the best laptop roundups, the stuff the sales guy points you at, soldered. And then there's the one that genuinely stopped me, iFixit. These are the repair people. They tear gadgets apart for a living and rate how fixable they are. They actually recommended the Dell XPS 13 for years. Then a newer version soldered down both the memory and the storage, and they pulled it off the recommended list. In writing, they called it a step in the wrong direction. Read that slowly with me. The repair experts looked at one of the most popular laptops on the planet and said, we can't tell people to buy this anymore because you can't fix it. That's the ballgame. And okay, you can't upgrade it later. I know how that lands. Sounds like a mild inconvenience, a first world problem. Let me show you what it actually costs you, because this is where I stopped shrugging. When everything's soldered together, one small failure takes the whole board with it. iFixit's own numbers on this are wild. A single port, the little USB-C connector you plug your charger into, on a fixable laptop costs about $50 to replace. That same broken port, when it's soldered to the board, you're looking at replacing the entire motherboard, about $1,500. Read those two numbers next to each other. Same tiny broken part, $50 or $1,500. The only thing that changed is whether they let you fix it.
And here's the gut punch I did not see coming. On these machines, the storage, the drive with all your stuff on it, your photos, your files, your everything, that's soldered down too. So when the board dies, your data doesn't come with it. iFixit flagged real cases of exactly this. Laptop won't turn on, and there is no way to pull the files off because the drive is fused to the corpse. There's no just take out the hard drive. The hard drive is part of the thing that died. Let me put a real receipt on the fixable is better idea, so you don't think I'm just team repair for the sake of it. iFixit scores laptops 0 to 10. The brands that build them to open up, Framework, Lenovo's ThinkPads, score right up at 10. Now here's the line that actually made me laugh, the dark kind of laugh. A Dell business laptop from 2017, the Latitude, scored a perfect 10. And Dell's own flagship laptops in 2026 don't come close to matching it. Think about that. A laptop from nearly a decade ago is more repairable than the shiny new ones. That's not progress. That's the opposite of progress sold to you as thin and premium. Even Apple, who got dragged for years on this, only clawed their newest MacBook up to a 6 out of 10. And iFixit's own note is that this is Apple's best in over a decade, and the memory and storage are still soldered. That's the high end of the trend, a 6. Their best work in 10 years, and you still can't add a gig of memory to it.
So now stack the whole thing up because this is the trap in one breath. Most new laptops come with too little memory. You can't add more because it's soldered. When it inevitably slows down, and Windows and your apps guarantee it will, there's no cheap fix. The fix is a whole new laptop. And if any little thing breaks along the way, the repair bill is so insane, you'll just replace it anyway, and your files might not even survive the trip. That's not a laptop that lasts. That's a subscription with a one-time upfront charge and a hard expiration date you didn't know you agreed to. Which leaves the only question that actually matters. If half the aisle is a trap, what do you actually buy? Because there's a right answer. A couple of them, honestly. And one of them is a deal so good right now that it almost feels like a mistake the market's about to correct. That's where we landed. Okay, here's what I'd actually do with my own money, no hedging. 2 rules, and they canceled the trap. 1, buy 16 gigs of memory minimum and a real SSD, not the cheap eMMC storage. 2, if you can't swing 16 today, then buy a laptop you're allowed to open, one where you can add memory later. Get either of those right, and the year 1 slowdown, the $1,500 repair, all of it just never happens to you. That's the whole game. Everything else is decoration. So let me get specific, because buy better is useless without names. If you want cheap and safe, the one that kept coming up in the research is the Acer Aspire 5, the version with 16 gigs and a 512 gig SSD. The reviews describe it doing the exact stuff that kills the 8 gig machines. Piles of browser tabs, video calls, streaming, light photo work without that sludgy drag. It's not a luxury object, the case is plastic, nobody's pretending otherwise, but it's got the desk space to stay useful for years. And a lot of these configs let you crack it open and add more later. That's the point. It grows with you instead of dying on a timer.
If you've got real money and you want it to last, this is where I landed, and it surprised me a little. I went in assuming premium was the scam, the thin, expensive stuff being the worst offenders, and I was half wrong. Because a laptop like the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon does the one thing that makes soldered memory forgivable, because it starts you at 32 gigs. Yeah, it's soldered, but at 32, who cares? You are never running out of that desk for normal work, so the can't upgrade trap just doesn't spring. Pair that with ThinkPad's actual repair support, real manuals, real replacement parts, and you've got the rare thin laptop that isn't secretly disposable. It's around $1,800, so it's not for everybody. But if you're keeping a laptop 5, 6, 7 years, that math works. And then the one that's almost too good right now. If you just want the smartest dollar on the table, look at a refurbished business laptop, a renewed ThinkPad, a Latitude, an EliteBook. Here's why the timing's weird in your favor. Windows 10 hit its end of support last October, and every big company on Earth had to dump its old fleet and buy new ones all at once. That flooded the market with these tanky, fixable corporate machines, the ones built to be opened and serviced. They're warranted, they're modular, and they are cheap because there's a glut. Honestly, a refurbished business laptop right now will often outlast and outfix a brand new laptop off the same shelf for less money. That window won't stay open forever. Gluts get bought up. But today, it's the move. Quick gut check on my own confidence here, because I owe you the edges. The exact live prices on any of these bounce around week to week, so treat the numbers as a shape, not a promise. Check them the day you buy. And on that budget Dell 15 I've been beating up, I couldn't fully confirm whether every version of it lets you add memory or not, so if it's the one calling your name, look up that specific model's memory before you commit. I'd rather tell you I don't know a thing about it than pretend I do.
One more while we're being honest, because I don't want you walking away scared of your own charger. Somewhere in this, you might have heard laptop, battery, fire, and tensed up. So straight from the safety records, there's no current recall on the battery inside any mainstream laptop. The lithium fires that did get recalled, and some of them were bad. One power bank recall involved a death. Those were cheap third-party power banks and chargers, mostly the no-name stuff on Amazon. So the takeaway is small and useful. Buy your laptop's own brand charger, skip the $10 mystery brick, and you're fine. Your new laptop is not going to catch fire. It's just going to get slow, which is the whole reason we're here. So let me tie the bow on it, because this comes down to one sentence. The regret isn't the price you pay, it's the spec you skip. Buy 16 gigs and an SSD, or buy something you're allowed to open, and that miserable, why is my new laptop already slow story is just not yours. That's it. That's the one you can't undo, and now you can see it coming a mile off before it costs you a dime. If this saved you from a bad buy or from talking someone you love into one, that's exactly what this channel's for, so stick around. The next trap is already loaded, and I'd rather you dodge it than learn it the hard way. And I'm genuinely curious on this one. How much memory is in the laptop you're on right now? And did you have any idea whether you could ever change it? Drop it in the comments. Let's see how many of us got quietly stuck with the number the box picked for us.